It's the start of a new week here on Inside the Game and the National Soccer Network. That we say welcome in, everybody. Nate Wangler and Ryan Glinsky joining you here today on the show. It's another great week getting into a lot of different things. I know we got to talk about, obviously, March Madness and everything that's been happening with that. Also, everything in and around the soccer world. But, Ryan, welcome back in. Fun weekend. Just a lot of stuff in general happening. So I feel like you and I have kind of been going back and forth a little bit on a few different things. I know we got some rants in the can for maybe the all sports section. But how was your weekend?
It was good. A very stressful weekend for all my sports teams. To be honest with you, the Wings
Yeah.
needed a victory, did not get
Yep.
it. Michigan basketball, obviously on Saturday, and then
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal choking away yesterday. But yeah, no, really stressful weekend. And I would like to say that I liked my brain rot day yesterday on Sunday. I just I lifted after the Arsenal performance, so I was really pissed off about that. But after I lifted, came back about 3:30, something like that, and then I just brain rot the rest of the day. So it was pretty good.
Crossover season is always crazy because you're just getting hit by all angles. Like on Saturday, it was like that because you have Michigan basketball taking on St. Louis, which with Milk Chamberlain being out there, you never
Robbie
know. I mean, the
Avila.
kid,
Oh my
yeah,
God,
the
Mara
kid can
made him look
shoot.
silly. Whew.
He did. He did. That was a sick move. I think Amara puts on like 15, 20 more pounds. That's an NBA ready big. Also, I love how the big is coming back in the NBA because you have Zach Edey in there. You have guys that they're just
Never
huge.
liked Zach Edey.
Wembenyama is another example. Although Wembenyama is not a traditional big. I think we all know that. He's kind of an alien with the way that he plays. But
He's not
the
real.
big the big in general is coming back in the NBA, which I think is cool. You don't see that a lot. But anyways, but yeah, you have Michigan basketball during the day. St. Louis isn't a give me of a game. Like they still have to play well to win that one. It was close early, right? So I'm dealing with the stress of that. And then later that night, we're playing Ohio State for the fifth time in hockey. Michigan is trying
Yeah.
to go 5-0, and it just so happens that the fifth one is the most important one. That's the fucky thing about being in the Big Ten is you can beat a team 4 times like MSU did a few years ago, and then they play us the fifth time, and we just find a way to eke it out. And now we get to tell them, well, hey, we beat you in the most important one. So, yeah, stress all over.
That was the best part about it was the what was it? That the game was going on during the Red Wings game, so they were kind of like updating the score, like the
Yeah,
PA announcer and even the in game hosts were updating it. And then right when they found out that I think it was like 7-3 with like not much time left, but then they finally put it on the jumbotron during one of the TV timeouts, and then like everyone started like going, everyone's like, yeah, let's go, F Ohio, F Ohio. So no,
nice.
it was pretty sick.
I heard a new acronym for OSU, and I thought this was really funny. One Sport University,
Yeah, I did see that
OSU,
one. Yeah,
and that's
it's true
that's
though.
that's a pretty good one. Well, it's yeah, because I've seen other people even talk about how like Ohio State football fans or just Ohio State fans in general are so checked out when it comes to any other sport. They're like, "What? We're not number one in the country? Well, I'm not watching." It's like, do you guys understand how
The
any of
Colt.
this works? They don't. They don't. They have no clue whatsoever. But anyways, getting into our number one here on Inside the Game here this Monday episode. I'm a little surprised we haven't mentioned this story quite yet because I think it is something that obviously hits very close to home. We do a lot of things here on the network. Obviously, primarily here in our number one, we talk about soccer. We also cover a ton of soccer. That's primarily what we do, but we also do a lot of all sports content as well at the high school level, at the club level, at the ACHA level, with the University of Rhode Island. And you might have heard this story a bit earlier in the year because I know we talked about it, but the shooting, the Rhode Island hockey high school team and the high school player who had his mother, his brother, as well as his grandfather shot and killed at a high school game in which he played in. And it was a very emotional moment. Colin Dorgan helped win the state championship. It was Blackstone Valley Ice Hockey Team. And again, this is mere weeks after those tragic shooting deaths of mom, brother, and grandfather at the game by his dad. It was a murder suicide, but just something that obviously, emotionally speaking, is so damaging. But took him a few overtimes. Colin ended up getting the game-winning goal in the semifinal, and then they went on and recently won the state championship. So for a place and a community that we've done a ton of work in here on the National Soccer Network and Premier Media Group and calling the games in those buildings. It's crazy to think how something like that hits so close to home. And I think regardless of where this kid's career goes beyond this point, whether he plays in college or whether he doesn't play in college, this is going to be something that really carries him into the future. And I think it's good to highlight the feel-good stories. We're so wrapped up in all the negative crap that's going on all the time, but this is one of those stories of persistence. This is one of those stories of, being willing to go back out there and still compete with the guys around you, although you're going through the amount of tremendous pain that I'm sure he is something that just reminds you. And it's the reason why we like to keep sports. It's why we like to keep it what it is, because it's a chance for us to really break away from all that. So I think it's an inspiring story. I think it's awesome. Congratulations to that high school and that community for getting that. And, for persisting and pushing through. I'll never forget when I was in high school, I had a friend whose dad passed away from cancer. And it happened during a school day. It happened during football season. We happened to have a game that night, and I'll never forget when he came back and played, despite everything that was going on with his family, and obviously emotionally charged for everybody involved. Now, we did not have a storybook ending. We actually ended up getting waxed in that game. But just the fact that he came back and competed was
really thinking that was going somewhere else.
No, it's not. It was not a Disney movie. The other team actually scored on the first play. It was a 77-yard jet sweep that they got 6 on. So
wow.
No, it was not a good night. However, the fact that he was willing to come back and compete, I think shows everything about his character and who he is. So it's awesome. So just congratulations to that high school and that community and everything. And you guys deserve all the love and all the good things coming your way.
Yeah, I really thought that we were going to have a better feel-good story on that end.
No.
Nate. That's why Nate should not be director of any Disney movies going forward. But, it's a sad story, obviously, when we talked about it. I think this was like January when it happened. We mentioned it, and, we do a ton of work. We've done Rhode Island high school playoff games for football. We've done the high school, I forget what high school league it is, and then we do the Peak Performance Prep League. Then we do ACHA URI. So we do a lot of stuff in Rhode Island, and especially in the hockey community. We have 2 leagues, and then their club hockey team that made nationals this year. So great story. I would say great. I'd say great story for the comeback. Obviously, it's a sad story.
Yeah.
If you look at it overall, but no, good bounce back for the kid, and I'm sure this has probably been the craziest months of his life anyway, and. Glad there's a little bit of a positive though in that young man's life and the community's life, and if any part of his family as well.
Certainly something to take away from it. So congratulations to those guys. But Ryan, let's get into our soccer conversation here in hour number 1. With some of these topics, I like to just kind of take a back seat and let you take the reins, because I know you've been all in on this, and this was a topic that we talked about in length last week, and I said, when it came to this matchup specifically, and that's Arsenal and Man City, I felt like all the pressure was on Man City's shoulders, but boy, did they respond. It just seemed like Arsenal played scared in that matchup, and obviously now the race is on between those two teams. But I know you made a video on it, but that's obviously I think one of the biggest storylines, one of our biggest takeaways from the weekend, and another tough look for Arsenal in a cup final.
Yeah, the story as old as time. They just pissed down their leg, like always. Same thing as that happened in Baku back in 2018, I think, 2017, something like that. In the Europa League final against Chelsea, it was 4-0 thrashing defeat. That they looked not ready for that one either. The FA Cup we typically play well in, but whenever we play a side like Man City, it just never goes well. And there's a couple things that are true. Wow, those things are loud. There was like a whole bunch of flock of geese that just flew over. Those are loud. Anyway, where was I going to go? Oh, yeah. A couple takeaways from the game. There was one, obviously, the one that you can easily point your finger out. I'm not saying this is the reason they lost, but again, I said, just play your best goalkeeper. I do not care if they got you there or not. I do not care. If we look back at the starting 11 in the first round, do all those players deserve to play in the cup final? No, they don't. They're not good. And Kepa is not good. just play Raya. I do not care if he didn't get you there or not. He's the best goal. He's arguably the best
Yeah.
goalkeeper in the world. I don't care what Man City did by playing their backup goalkeeper because guess what? Trafford is a million times better than Kepa, and he made one massive save in the first half that kept the game even. That's the difference between all this. And then that happens, and then just the floodgates kind of open, but that's not the main reason they lost. But I mean, dude, when it hits your hands, catch the damn ball. It's not difficult. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the other aspect is why are we parking the bus like that? Why are we parking the bus against a team like Manchester City in a game like that? This is not Arsenal from 4 years ago. It's not. There's world-class players on the pitch. Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice. I would like to say Saka, but he's been really poor recently. But there are players that can compete with Man City time and time again, and we just sit there. Like, what is the point of that? This team is capable of beating them. We have seen it happen before. We thrashed City 5-1 last year, competed with them this year at the Emirates and tied. We haven't lost to City, I think, since, gosh, I think the last time we lost to City may have been, I think it may have been like 2023, spring of 2023 was the last time I think we lost to them. I think so. It's not like they beat us 5-0 every single time when we're in the Wenger days. It's not like that. We can compete with these guys. So we're doing ourselves a disservice for inviting all that pressure into our box, and our players that deserve to be winning trophies all the time, they shouldn't be set up like that. And Arteta, I do not understand this guy's philosophy at certain times. The whole corner thing, it's fine because everyone has to sit against us. I have no issue with that. The issue I have is at big moments, we sit there. We just park the bus. Dude, this team is good. They can play free-flowing. I don't know if he still has PTSD from that Man City thrashing back in 2023 at the Etihad where we lost 4-1 or 3-1, whatever it was, and we just looked like we did not deserve to be on the field with them. That's not the case because we absolutely deserve to be on the field with them because we can compete. We've proven it. But that issue is just I don't get it. I do not get it, Miguel. You have world-class players. You spent over a £1 billion on players. There is no reason, absolutely no reason why you should be playing like that. There's no reason you should be playing like that. We should not be parking the bus like that. There's world-class players all over the place. And for the title race, obviously, it opens up because the way I saw Man City kind of celebrate with each other, is it corny a little bit? Yeah, but if Arsenal did it, everyone would call it corny still. So no, I'm going to call it corny because it wasn't Arsenal. Because if Arsenal had the same reaction as Man City, everyone would call it corny, but no one's calling it corny. I'll call it corny just because no one else will. It's Man City. I don't know if everyone's on their payroll or something. But it seemed like a massive weight off of Pep's shoulders because at this rate, it felt like they were not going to win a trophy at all this year. Already embarrassed in the Champions League. Arsenal 9 points clear right now, game in hand. Obviously, I get all of that. But it just feels like now they're like, all right, we just won one trophy. We can go win another one. Yeah, the Champions League was disappointing again this year, but you know what? We can go win this thing. And even last year's Premier League showing was horrible for them. But now everything kind of opens up a little bit back in the Premier League, and it's going to get tight again. I think it will because they still play each other one more time this year. It's not set in stone Arsenal's going to win these last 7 games of the season. I think you got to win. You probably have to win 4 out of the last 7, I think, to win the league. I think probably 4 or 5, depending on the result of the City game. But no, it's going to take a lot for these guys, and they still have to play Champions League football week every single week, so still 3 games a week. It's going to take a toll. So I'd really like to see it. And I think the international break might come at a really good time for this Arsenal side. I really do.
I think the criticisms around how Arsenal plays really kind of are highlighted when you look at a game like what we saw, or a match like what we saw with Man City. That's where I think it becomes troubling for some people, and they start to wonder, is this legit? Is the way they're playing right now actually something that's going to carry them to a level of success in a cup championship, or that they're able to finish at the top of the mountain? Because what we saw yesterday, at least from reading about this and obviously watching your video, if Man City's missing 2 of their best back 4, and you still can't find a way to put pressure on them, you miss on early opportunities. Also, you only got 3 corner kicks the entire match. That's half of what you've been expected to get in terms of set piece opportunities in matches so far, which you've been great on set piece opportunities, but if you're not able to win, or if you're not able to put pressure on the other side by playing your game, or at least the game that I think people have gotten used to seeing Arsenal play this year, which again is more methodical and less creative, and a lot more of what we saw yesterday, maybe not to the same extent. Obviously, mistakes and early mistakes, led Man City out in front. But if you can't, we always talk about this in sports. Like sometimes as like a pitcher, I'll do the baseball comparison. Sometimes you don't have your fastball. So how else are you able to get hitters if your best pitch isn't working on that particular day? If Arsenal, if you can't win the way that you normally do, right? If you don't have as many set piece opportunities, if whatever you're doing, do they have the versatility? Does Arteta have the ability to find a way to win with this team if it's not off of set pieces? Can they find the football in them a little bit and get creative with the ball and do things? I thought they could. When we saw Max Doman, or Max Dauman, is it Dauman or Doman? Dauman? Okay. When he did what he did, I thought maybe that they had, broken through in that regard, that they had found someone that could kind of make this team a little bit more dynamic in the way that they approach things. Now, obviously, he's extremely young, so there's still a lot to learn. But that was the part where it's like, Man City wasn't really at full strength. I mean, so how were you unable to create opportunities? Or it just seemed like, to your point, Ryan, again, kind of circling back on what you were saying, they played scared. And it just doesn't seem that they could get out of that mold that they're used to playing in. And that's something that's going to be important because, yeah, I mean, you can beat a lot of sides based off of set pieces and how you've been doing it. But when it comes down to a situation in a cup final or a must win, on down the line, if the race does get as tight as we believe it's going to be in the Premier League, are you able to win games not the way you normally do it? Are you able to find other ways in which to get that final result that you want? Because it just seemed like they didn't want to break the mold that they were used to playing in against Man City, and that's why we saw the cup result that we did.
Yeah, I would agree with majority of what you just said there. But they have proven they can win without it. The Everton game, for example, Chelsea, Brighton, they've proven they can win without breaking the mold. But when it comes into games like this happens all the time. Whether it was Liverpool, whether it was Man City last year, the last couple of years, or in big games like against PSG or Real Madrid, this is the same thing. It looks like this all the time. And when they play the weaker sides, they obviously look like the more dominating force. I get all that. I get all that. But no, it just, they seem to, when they play in big moments in cup games, it's always been in their history. They always bottle it. I shouldn't say bottle it because they never even had an opportunity to win the game. But they just don't show up. They seem nervous. They seem scared. Again, I think that also comes to the manager as well, because why are you setting up your team like this? Again, I still think that he's got PTSD from 2023. I really do. But all I'm saying is that is not the same team. This team is 1,000 times better. The only reason that 23 was such a disappointment is because you exceeded expectations by a mile. No one expected you to even be in a title race. Everyone thought, you know what, compete for fourth place, third place, we're just getting Champions League. That's all that matters. And all of a sudden, you're in the middle of a title race in March, and everyone's like, what the heck? This is just strange. And it was. But again, that was free-flowing Arsenal. That's what they looked like all the time. But again, I think everyone's kind of figured him out a little bit. I think there's certain ways that he can change things. I don't know why we have to play like this. I really don't. I mean, Saliba and Gabriel are probably the best center-back partnership in the world. And you have one of the best sixes and number 8s in the world in Zubimendi and even Declan Rice. Zubimendi's such an underrated player. But you are dominating the spots you're supposed to dominate in games like this, yet we don't utilize anything and we don't do anything with it. It's almost like when Harbaugh just tried to run the football all the time against Ohio State and just never worked, when you had 5-star wide receivers out there and never utilized them. That's just what it seems like. And it's just not working. And you've got to figure something out, because this is your best chance to win trophies this year. It really is. It's the Premier League is yours for the taking. You have an easy path to the semifinals of the Champions League, easy path to probably the finals of the FA Cup. So, and you were in the final this year. You got to get it done this year. You got to find a trophy somehow, some way.
Coming up next here in hour number 1 at Inside the Game, we're going to give a look at our MLS weekend recap, everything that went down in Major League Soccer. Also, I have a fun question. Ryan thinks it's a dumb question. I think it's an interesting question, though. Who's Father Time going to catch up to quicker, Lionel Messi or LeBron James? Messi is once again putting on for Inter Miami. But let's talk about Bayern, FC Bayern summer soccer camps. They are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, fostering football excellence across North America, open to boys and girls of all skill levels. FC Bayern camps deliver elite training inspired by FC Bayern Munich's world-class philosophy. Select your city and start a promising soccer path. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code BayernNSN30. Again, that's BayernNSN30. Scan the QR code on your screen. Learn more at FCBayernYouth.com.
So the dream behind Irene's was simply to be a place where the community could come and gather. This is my hometown, we're raising our family here, and we just want to be a space where people can come together as a community and share a great meal. We've got golf simulators, we got pinball, live music, trivia nights, but we also have fresh, always homemade, locally sourced food, and we serve it with a sense of Gemütlichkeit. This is a German word that conveys a sense of warmth and coziness and belonging. We're excited to show off how we're growing and that this is the place to be.
And this is the place to be. Inside the Game, welcome back in on the National Soccer Network, 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays here on NSN. Nate Wangler back alongside Ryan Glinsky. Ryan, taking a look at everything that happened in Major League Soccer over the weekend in our MLS recap here on NSN. A lot of big things happening over the weekend. Lionel Messi staying hot in his start to the year. Chicago Fire with a 3-0 shutout over CF Montreal. But I'll let you kind of set the table on this one. Biggest takeaways and what you saw and maybe some score updates from this weekend.
5 red cards. 5 red cards this weekend.
Goodness.
Houston Dynamo. New York Red Bulls had one. And then where's the other one? Okay, here it is. We got Portland had one. San Diego FC had one. They finally dropped a game this year. And then Cincinnati had a red card, but despite that, won the game anyway with a red card. But yeah, no, I think 5 red cards in a weekend is just crazy to me. It's not anything earth shattering, but you know, I just thought it was crazy that 5 red cards were placed. But a couple things to mention. Philadelphia Union, they fall to Greg Berhalter's side, Chicago Fire 2-1. It was the first time ever that a team who just won the Supporters Shield has lost the opening 5 games the next season. And it just happened to a better group of people than in the people of Philadelphia. You just hate to see it. Nashville on the other side with Orlando City, which there is some other news regarding Orlando City that happened yesterday. Antoine Griezmann will be coming to their side, signing a 2-year deal with them. But Nashville, 5-0. Sam Surge with a hat-trick. He now has 7 goals in the opening 5 games. He did talk about he did come over from Bournemouth. Bournemouth Academy. He was a Bournemouth Academy product, went to Stoke City, scored 1 Premier League goal with Nottingham Forest, then came to Nashville, and he did mention that he does want to try to get back to England at some point. But Serge has been unbelievable ever since coming to Nashville. I think he got 75 goals already in his time there. Toronto FC beats Columbus, and the most noteworthy thing is Josh Sargent makes his debut with Toronto coming on as
Yeah.
a substitute. Just something to mention there. Then we got St. Louis and New England Revolution. Matt Turner, man, what are you doing? You got beat from like 50 yards out, man. It's got to be better, Matt Turner. Bad weekend for really all goalies. We can mention that in a little bit. Do want to mention where they LAFC. Yes, LAFC did tie 0-0 with Austin FC, but Mark Dos Santos, the new manager for them who overtook for Steve Cherundolo, he is unbeaten in his first 9 matches. This is their first draw of the season for LAFC. I just want to mention that real quickly. But again, goals were flying all over the place. A couple of the score lines. 4-3 FC Dallas beating Houston Dynamo. 6-1 with Charlotte beating New York Red Bulls. So it was a hot start for Michael Bradley, but in the end, it's starting to get a little sour. But again, that's kind of always expected with the type of style that they're playing. Colorado beat Sporting KC 4-1. And then on the other side, as mentioned, Cincinnati beats Montreal 4-3. Then Messi gets it done against New York City. Matt Freese, again, horrible performance from him. That goal should have never ended up going in. But then the last one I did want to mention, Colorado Rapids. They get their 3rd win in 4 games, beating Sporting Kansas City. And Paxton Aronson, the brother of Brendan Aronson, over at Leeds. He plays for Real Salt Lake. He had his first brace since April 2024. And he helps them get a victory over, what did I just say? Over Sporting KC. Sorry, blanked out there. But yeah, that's just a little bit of recap. But yeah, we still have 2 unbeatens. And that is Nashville and LAFC. But every team has now dropped a point. No one is perfect anymore.
Man, and you talk about an exciting weekend, too, in the way of, like, number one, high scoring, which is, I think we're seeing more of that in every passing year with the MLS. And certainly, that's what I'm saying. And especially this weekend. And the red cards. Like, I get the overall talent is nowhere close to the rest of the world, but I think the one thing the MLS has going for them, at least recently, is number one, it's fast, and number two, it's chaotic. Like, you're going to get both of those two things in Major League Soccer. So at the very least, you can't say it's not entertaining. It might not be the best football in the world, but it's not as polished as what you see maybe in the Prem and in the Champions League and these other things, but goodness gracious, it is fast and it is crazy. Yeah, a couple of things for me. I mean, I hope that this move for Josh Sargent helps him kind of find himself a little bit. I think everything when it comes to his family and what happened at the club level, it's so Bush League in the way that they expected him to be the one to apologize. They expected him to be the one to be forthright. No, man. I mean, if you're talking about my family, especially if you're talking ill about my family and the decisions that I want to make, and even suggesting that maybe I want to go home and you're not willing to help me out. I mean, like, you have to do what you have to do. And even if that means taking a step back in order to take 2 steps forward, I think that's what Josh Sargent is hoping the plan is here. Because I really, if I feel for anybody, I feel for that kid. I feel like the worst. Because when his start with Norwich City was, I mean, you remember, you and I were like banging the drum, like, oh man, Josh Sargent might be our guy. You know, he might be our number one, you know, him and Flo, you know, head to head, who's going to be. And then it just kind of fell off and he lost his place with Norwich. And obviously Flo is not, we can talk about Flo Balogun if we want to talk about overseas players, what a job he's done. 7 goals in 7 matches. I mean, the dude is literally playing at the top of his game at the exact right time that he needs to be playing at the top of his game. So I still like my prediction of him getting the first goal in the World Cup. But for Josh Sargent, again, this is just a hope that he can start again. He can start fresh, and maybe he can get that sour taste out of his mouth from what happened at Norwich City. And keep in mind, he can still very much be a key part of the international conversation in the MLS, because we've seen MLS players get call-ups. So there's still very much a path for Josh Sargent. Does it mean he goes back to Europe at some point? I don't know. I think it would be hard to justify that, especially because he came back for his family. So if you're coming back to be with your family, it would be hard to find a reason why he would want to go back to Major League Soccer. But, you know, that's just my hope for him. But, you know, obviously the one that we can always talk about, Lionel Messi, 4 goals in 4 matches to begin the season in Major League Soccer. I just wanted to ask that question a little bit earlier because I think it's fascinating that I just feel like athletes are just playing for longer now. Like LeBron James just broke the record in the NBA for the most games ever played by any player in that league, which is just wild. I think it's over 1,600 games, 18. I got to look up what the specific number is again. But Messi's still contributing. I mean, with 4 goals in 4 matches, and yeah, and I know that on Messi's side, that listen, the MLS, as we've talked about, is as close to beer league in comparison as you can make it to what some of the top end leagues are across the world. But we've also mentioned that in some rankings it is somewhere in the top 10.
MLS
it's less
is a
about
beer
the
league?
well, it compared to the Premier League. You know what I mean? Like the top end of the
I
Prem.
wouldn't go that far of a beer
But
league. It's
no,
like
but I said
like
it's in the
fifth
top 10.
league in the world, 6th league ranked in the world. I wouldn't go that far.
Right. But just
If anything, the
from
NBA
the overall
is more like a beer league because they're just out there just chucking up threes. Like that St. John's Kansas game looked like what an NBA game was, except that actually had intensity. The NBA is more of a beer league than the MLS. I'll tell you that.
I will, yes. But the fact that he's still out there competing at the level that he is still crazy to me. And I know that this is obviously not a new topic, but I'm just wondering, like, who is Father Time going to catch up to quicker? Because we know that the minute that Bron's not in the NBA, things are going to change, because I think the entire league has changed to kind of make sure that he feels comfortable sticking around in the NBA.
They've always done that. Whatever Bron needs, whatever he needs, we'll get it for him. Oh, you need to move teams because you can't win? Oh, okay, we'll move you into another one.
It's weird to think they've catered an entire league around one guy, but that's the reality in the NBA. They have. I mean, whatever Bron wants, he gets. He's practically the commissioner in the National Basketball Association.
So you can get Luka Doncic. You need another Hall of Famer because you haven't played with enough before. We'll get you one. We'll get you one.
Yeah. As far as we know, Bron actually contributed to the divorce in one way or the other because he needed Luka to be at the top of his game. You needed Luka to be pissed off. You needed that version of Luka. No, that's terrible.
Wait, you're
Luka's
struggling to make the playoffs year in, year out? Okay, we'll rig a trade to get you in.
Yeah. No. So anyways, so that's how the league treats LeBron. You can say the same thing about the MLS and Messi. You know, they're going to do everything they can to hold on to the guy. And once he's gone from Major League Soccer, we talked about everything kind of changes. You know, you need to find that next big headliner, which, I mean, the greatest player that's ever played the game. I don't know if you're ever going to find someone like that unless, like, of course, you get Ronaldo or maybe Neymar. But that is, I think they both have equal impacts on the league that they're in, and it's still fascinating that they're both still playing at the level that they are at the age that they're at.
I think there's a difference. I think there's a very big difference. One, I think LeBron still cares about winning. I think he really does. Messi, on the other hand, I don't think winning is like that much of a big deal anymore to this guy because he's won everything there is. The guys,
yeah, but you saw him celebrating with Miami after they won last year. Like,
he's won
clearly
everything.
He was
guy
excited.
does not need to win anymore. Why do you think he's playing in the MLS? He's won everything.
Yeah.
He's won everything. It does not truly matter. LeBron, on the other hand, he's still chasing a ghost, and he ain't getting it. He ain't getting to MJ6. That's what he's chasing. LeBron is chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan. Well, I'll tell you, LeBron, unless you move to the Thunder or Boston, you're not winning a trophy anytime soon. Oh, wow.
Unless it's a COVID trophy.
Oh, Ricardo Pepe's deal fell through again. Jeez, guy can't win.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, poor guy can't win. But no, like when I'm looking at LeBron and Messi, I think it's two different. I think it's apples oranges, to be honest with you, Nate. I think
really.
I think both of these guys are in. You could say, yeah, physically they're in the same style, their same kind of time frame in their career, but I think mentally they're each in two different categories of their career. Messi's already won the World Cup. He's won Champions Leagues. He's won countless trophies. He's even won an MLS Cup. If that matters to him at all. Is he going to celebrate? Yeah, he just won something. But LeBron is still chasing something. He is still chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan. 2 more rings. I also think at the same time, Messi's just living his life at this point. He's just like, yeah, I'll play this soccer game at the end of the week. I'll just play. This guy walks around. This is if this guy were in any other country in the world, is getting mobbed everywhere he goes. Yet this guy gets out of a car in a valet and walks through like a group of like 20 people No one knows who this
Yep.
guy is. So this
Yep.
guy's just living life.
Yep.
He could just walk through. And again, at the same time, soccer players are like smaller than me, and Messi's like 5'5". So like it's not like he's a physical demanding person. Like no one actually like an NBA guy walks by, you're like, okay, that's an NBA guy. Like that's sick. Like
Yeah.
what type of a pro
Yep.
athlete they are.
If Scotty
It-
Barnes walks by, you're not missing Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, he's also probably
unfortunately.
making some weird noises like he normally does. The guy Scotty Barnes is not a real person. But anyway, like Messi I think is just living his best life. He's just like, well, I just won the
Mhm.
World Cup in 2022. I'm the best player of all time. And Ronaldo fans can argue all they want. Obviously, he's probably not thinking about that, but I'm just saying that. And he's not
Yeah.
getting mobbed. LeBron, on the other hand, I mean, he gets mobbed everywhere he goes. I mean, it's LeBron. It's expected. And he still has to win. He still is chasing the ghost. And I just don't think – I think they're just I think they're in two different stages of their careers mentally.
Yeah.
I think Messi just – he's having fun. He's collecting a paycheck. He's going to create – he's with his paycheck that he's going to get from Miami, he's going to create like 6 generations from now, from his generation.
Yeah.
They'll be set to go. Instead of moving to Miami, it was like only 4 or 5 generations that were all good to go. Now it's 6, so he's good to go.
It's almost like, I guess, if you were to make a comparison, it would be like if Braun had his
Schrock
6.
said morning, by the way.
And what's
Shout
up,
out your
Schrock?
Texas
Hey, welcome
Longhorns,
in,
by
buddy.
the way, Schrock. They beat the
Hey,
frauds
yeah.
Gonzaga. I don't like Gonzaga,
Marching
to be
on,
honest
man.
with you.
Well, we thought Texas were frauds coming in, but they're marching on to the Sweet
They
16,
were.
man.
They were.
Freaking
Who'd they beat
wild.
in the first round? Who'd they beat? Who's the sixth?
Who's the
they
big
beat?
white? Who's the big white dude on their team?
I have
what's his
no
name?
idea.
Oh man.
But I just know they
I'm
beat
drawing a
Gonzaga.
blank.
But
Maybe
I
you
forgot
can help
the
me out,
6th seed
Schrocky.
that they beat. I don't know. I forgot the 6th seed that they beat because they're in 11, right? Yeah, they're in 11. I forgot the 6th.
Yes.
They won. Yeah, shout out your Longhorn track, but yeah, no. Oh, also, I guess
NC State.
the Wolfpack, Will Wade. I'm surprised that guy's got a job still after what he said at LSU in 2019. He already got enough money. He doesn't need more. Before it was legal.
NC State, they bounced out my predicted Final Four.
Oh,
in
BYU, AJ DeBonsta. Okay, that's right.
And then they beat Gonzaga as well.
I
So,
also realized I never answered your question. I think Messi will fall off quicker because I just don't think he cares as much as LeBron does. I never answered your question. My bad.
yeah, well, so I guess my thinking about this, like on the other way around, this would almost be like if LeBron got his 6 titles, got everything that he wanted, played with his son, and then just decided to like move over to France and play and just just play for the love of the game and live in a different country. Like that would almost be more comparable. Like, and he puts up 25 in a game. It's like but he's not doing it in the NBA. He's just doing it just for the love of the game, just to continue playing. So I can see where you're making that comparison. Did Trocky say something else?
He said Texas is an 11th, and they haven't ceased to surprise me this year. LOL. I mean,
Yeah. No, they're
they're a Sweet
freaking
16 as a
impressive,
play-in.
man. Yeah, that's wild. And I mean, we're going to talk about, it's funny that we mentioned this because we're going to talk about Cinderellas coming up later in hour number 2 and how Cinderellas are not what they used to be, at least the last couple of years. And I for some people, they're hoping that's not a trend. I think we all love Cinderellas, but I think it's just the way the game is moving. But we're certainly going to touch on that. But if you want to categorize Texas as a Cinderella, I guess technically you can work them in there. But I mean, outside of that, like you had like High Point, and that's about it.
I would say, well, before we get into the Cinderella talk later, I have a better comparison to this one of Messi and LeBron. I think there's a better comparison.
All right. Okay. All right. I'm all
Who
here.
will fall off quicker, Ronaldo or LeBron? I think that's a better comparison because Ronaldo has not completed everything that he wants. He's never been to a World Cup final, hasn't won a World Cup final. Obviously, different leagues than in the Saudi Pro League, and that's worse than the MLS. But I think Ronaldo and LeBron are in the same boat because they are still trying to win things. And I don't want to say Ronaldo's chasing Messi, like the ghost of Messi, the way LeBron is trying to chase the ghost of MJ. But I think Ronaldo is still trying to prove to himself and prove to the haters. Because I still think Ronaldo's kind of like, I know everyone says like, the athletes don't truly like hear anything. Like they block out all the noise. I think Ronaldo's one of those guys that actually like listens to it a little bit, because the way he answers certain questions and the way he reacts to things and says things, I think he does, because before the 2022 World Cup, he mentioned like, yeah, the World Cup is what defines you as like a true player or whatever. Then all of a sudden Messi wins it and Ronaldo flames out, which Ronaldo being in that World Cup and starting in that World Cup was just a charity case, to be completely honest with you. He didn't deserve to start all those games. I thought there was better players. But then he goes on after the World Cup and he's like, yeah, the World Cup just does not define you as a player. It doesn't define you. Everything else, you got to look at the whole body of work, which Ronaldo, like 6 months ago, you said
how similar does that sound? Yeah, how similar does that sound? Yeah, exactly. Yep. No,
I think Ronaldo and LeBron is a better comparison, I would say.
Well, and the difference between, and this is why people kind of they look at LeBron and MJ in a different way, because MJ was not the type to go in front of the cameras and proclaim that he's the best to ever do it.
No.
LeBron changed that. MJ probably told his friends behind closed doors, "Hey, I'm the best. You know, I'm going to go do this, that, or the other thing." You know, the way that he is, how competitive he is. But that was, you know, that's who MJ was. LeBron has made it different. LeBron's been going on podcasts and saying this, that, and claiming he is the king. And so there is a level of insecurity there. And I would say the same exact thing for Ronaldo. You know, he might not say it outwardly, or he does say it outwardly. And I do think that he is more inclined to, you know, speak on that. Whereas I think Messi is just, as you talked about, just living his life. So it feels like there's that same level of insecurity around it in terms of who's going to fall off quicker. I mean, I think Ronaldo maybe already has. I don't know. I mean, looking at his saga with the Saudi League and
ever since he left Man United, I think he has, because
right.
That was
I think we're on our way down.
Bad. And I will say, doesn't that turn you off as a fan of, like, don't you like kind of hate them, a player trying to claim himself as the greatest of all time? Like, to say you're the greatest of all time, you can't crown yourself that. That is like what that's what a mass majority of people think. Because like if all of a sudden Mbappe comes out and says like, yeah, I'm the best of all time in my generation, I'd be like, okay, buddy, all right, let's stop there. Like, that automatically turns me off, because like, I think there's got to be a sense of like being humble on it, and like, you can't claim yourself as the GOAT. People do. You don't say that. Like, yeah, people will always say, like, obviously athletes and coaches will always say like, yeah, we can make we can go far, or we're the best team in the league. Like, obviously that happens, but like, to say the greatest player of all time, it's like, okay, dude, you can't claim that. And I think you're right. MJ probably said things to his friends or his family or other teammates like, yeah, dude, I'd kill him. Yeah. I'd beat him in a 1v1 just like that. So yeah, no, I would say you can't crown yourself as the GOAT. You just can't. Yeah. It's just a bad look. But I mean, that's the difference between this generation and previous ones. It's just more comfortable, because it's just more stuff, especially when it comes to podcasts and everything else like that, which podcasts drive me nuts. I'm happy that we have one, but I swear everyone and their grandmother has a podcast when it comes to something. So I'm happy that we hypocrite statement there, Nate.
I'm just happy we have the fans that we do. So we appreciate you guys coming back, including you, Shraki. You are number one on that list. But we're going to take a step aside here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Flo Balogun. Right now, 7 goals in 7 matches. We can also take a look at some of our other players across the pond and how they're performing. Also, let's talk a little bit about the international window. We got a game coming up here for the U.S. men's national team, some of our expectations and what we want to see. It's all U.S. men's national team talk before we get into all sports content in hour number 2. That's coming up next here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
Back and live here on Inside the Game, Monday edition, as we get ready for the remainder of this week here on NSN. Talking a little bit U.S. men's national team as we get ready for their game against Belgium coming up on the 28th. The international window is officially underway. Just taking a peek at some of their upcoming games. Obviously, they got that one on the 28th. Senegal is coming up in the future as well. We got some competitive sides, though, Ryan, and Senegal obviously a little upset after everything that happened with AFCON in getting their cup taken away.
Did you see the trophies in a military base right now?
What? Really?
The AFCON Cup trophies in a military. They took right after it was the ruling. They took the trophy to the military base and took a photo with the military, and they probably just left it there. They're like, well, you can't get it because you'd be trespassing on military property. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Smart though.
Well. It is smart. I'll certainly give them that. But man, that's wild. That whole thing is wild too. I love that. And the Morocco fans are never going to get away from the allegation that they won it via email because that's exactly how you won it. You didn't win it on the pitch. You won it via email. All of a sudden, 3 months later, it's like, well, the letter of the law, whatever. But anyways, talking about these upcoming friendlies, Belgium on Saturday on the 28th, and then on the 31st, obviously, to wrap up the month of March, we got USA v. Portugal. Is Ronaldo going to be on the pitch? I don't know. Probably not, but we'll see. Senegal, Germany, and then obviously getting into the World Cup. But a couple of things going into this, Ryan. I mean, obviously, number one, I just want to see, I would love to see wins. I think that's the most important thing. I think everybody acknowledges that they want to see that. But more than that, it seems like an overgeneralized statement, but I just want to see this team compete. I just want to see this team give us something to hold on to going into the World Cup. I think Flo Balogun, I know I wanted to mention him in this segment, 7 goals in 7 matches. He's playing the best soccer of his life at the time where we need him to be at the top of his game. And I said this yesterday on social media, and I'll kind of circle back to it because I think it is really important to mention. It is a comforting feeling knowing that we have our main striker, knowing that we have our guy. I think in seeing what Weston McKennie has done at Juventus and how great he's been and how versatile he's been, obviously with Christian Pulisic and what he's been able to do when he's healthy, I think that's obviously the biggest part of the conversation. We have a pretty dangerous 3 up top for the U.S. men's national team right now with those 3. And I think they've looked absolutely spectacular. Now, around them, obviously, there's more question marks. We talked about the back line for the U.S., which is looking a little dire. It's not looking very strong. So obviously there's question marks as to, how are we going to play out of the back if we don't feel very confident with what our back line looks like. Obviously the biggest question in my mind is looking at the way that the goalkeepers played this weekend in Major League Soccer. Hopefully Matt Freese can find more of Gold Cup Matt Freese when the time comes against these sides versus what we've seen in Major League Soccer, at least this weekend. Matt Turner, I don't know. We just haven't seen him get a start with the U.S. men's national team in a while, so I don't really know what to make of him. But at the end of the day, I want to see these guys compete, all right? We've seen the individual pieces. We've seen the club success. We've seen some players who really haven't had as much club success but have done better on the U.S. men's national team. I know that people are probably getting sick of hearing me talk about Gio, but Gio's a good example. But how do all these pieces fit? It's just the thing that sucks is I feel like sometimes we go so long waiting for these things to happen and talking about these things. Now we finally get to see it on the pitch in front of us. Are they going to play the best the other countries have to offer? No, probably not. But it still matters a lot to me and everybody else that they find just a way to compete and give us, again, just some semblance of hope heading into the World Cup that they're ready to go out and win games.
Yeah, I would agree. But I think most importantly, we're looking at different players. I mean, obviously the striker situation. Yeah, Balogun's been great. It's been doing it against PSG too, which is even more impressive. But yeah, have him. That's fine. I mean, he's kind of rolled in already as a starter heading into this window. But I need to figure out, who the other center backs, because Nokai Banks ain't playing for this team. It hasn't been said yet, but it's pretty much a done deal. He's just going to play for Germany based on certain things. And also, I don't really want him at this point if you're not persuaded to play for us in your home country for a World Cup. I need to figure that out. I also need to figure out the wingback situation, because if we're rocking with a back 3 with a couple wingbacks, back 5, whatever you want to call it, we need to figure out those situations. Is it going to be Tim Weah as a right wing back? Is it going to be Arvston on the left side, maybe he's on the right side, Anthony Robinson, even who's the other one? Joe Scally, who where is he playing, all that stuff. And there's so many question marks. Luna, Reyna, Aronson, I guess I would say. Who is the other backup strikers? So there's a lot of different questions. And Balogun, what he's scoring, that's great and all, but we need to figure out a bunch of other positions. I feel like we have a lot of other holes on this roster, specifically in defense, because, Chris Richards, but that's about it. Miles Robinson, he just got a red card this past weekend. I know that doesn't define him, but hasn't particularly been the greatest thing ever with us. Same with Mark McKenzie.
Yeah.
Tim Ream, Tim Ream needs to be on the roster for sure, doesn't need to play. I think his legs are gone at this point. But, outside of that, need to figure out the wingbacks, maybe the midfield if Tyler Adams, because Tyler Adams does have a little bit of a history this season of not being fit. Weston McKennie's been fantastic. He's been all over the place. Is it going to be Tim Ware or Tillman? Is it going to be, obviously, political start? So there's a lot of different things. But basically what I want to see in this window is is the back three really the way that we're going to go? I think it is, but is it going to work against the really good sides? It worked against a depleted Japan team. It worked against the Australias and the Ecuadors. It worked against that. But Belgium is a little bit is above our level. Portugal above our level. Senegal, I would say, is better than us. But is the back three going to work against a much better side? Because look, getting out of the group is all fine and dandy, but that's not the point of these World Cups anymore. You got to make a run. You've got, with the amount of resources and the amount of players playing overseas in big leagues and actually contributing to these teams, can we make a deeper run? And does our system, does our back five, our back three, does that work against a much better side like a Belgium and a Portugal? Because at some point along the way, if you win the group, come against a round of 32 team, you should win that. But once you get into the round of 16 and eventually maybe even a quarterfinals, you're going to play a team that's probably equal and probably better than, if not better than you. So we've got to figure out ways to handle all that. And does our system work against that? That's probably the biggest thing that I'm looking at in all these windows. Obviously, we'll talk more and more as the games get a little bit closer. But that's the biggest thing for me, because it's worked against depleted sides. It's worked against bad sides. But is it going to work against the better teams of the world?
Yeah. No, 100%. That's the reality. And, the biggest part about this that I'll say, and we talked about this, when it came to, I think in the basketball conversation, college basketball conversation with conference tournaments, how sometimes if you lose in a game, maybe they can launch you into the tournament. I think when we talk about measuring stick games, it's always interesting. That seems to be like a phrase that broadcasters use a lot of times. This is a measuring stick game. It gives you a different idea as to where you are compared to the other sides that you've played. And I think that's the truth for the U.S. men's national team, because of how rare it is that we get the opportunities to face off against these sides, not in a knockout style game where we can just play them. We understand it's a friendly, that win or loss is not going to affect us at the end of the day, but you still want to win. But even if it ends up going the other way and you end up getting blown out by one of these sides, if anything, I think that will just, at the very least, it might actually provide us a little bit of maybe a cleansing, maybe a soul cleansing for this U.S. men's national team to realize the level that they have to be at. And I know that it's a sprint towards the World Cup and there's not a lot of time to get this all figured out. But if I want our guys to be as prepared as possible going into this tournament, I think that USA Soccer did it the right way by saying, okay, well, here's the gauntlet before you even get there. And I know that, again, that not everybody's going to have their best players out there because it's not elimination quite yet. And it doesn't, we're not in a group play, but it is, it's not quite sink or swim, but it's, you're playing with the older group. You're a 16-year-old that's out there playing with your older brother, and playing with the guys who are a little bit taller and a little bit faster and a little bit more skilled than you are. So I think win or loss, there are going to be lessons to take away from it. If we win, okay, then we know that we're playing effective. We know that we're on the same page, that whatever this machine is, it's moving the right way and that we got the right pieces. And, if our strategy works against the bigger sides, good. If it doesn't, and if we get embarrassed, still good. We learned a lot. Okay, maybe we learned we can't play out of the back. Maybe we learned we can't play a certain way because we're not as strong in certain areas versus other areas. There's a lot of lessons to be learned. And so I think while winning is important, and obviously for the U.S. men's national team, just the general fan, and obviously myself included, I'm going to want to beat these sides and see that they can win. I think the more important thing is, where do we get exposed? Not necessarily where our strengths are. Where do we get exposed? That's where you and I, when it comes to this show and talking every single morning about what we've seen and what we're going to see leading up to the World Cup and everything that's involved in that. That's the areas that we're really going to be focused on. And so, when it comes down to particular players, who fits what mold and everything. And I know I'm saying a lot of general stuff right now, but this is really what we're looking at. And so I think there's been a lot. I think they've gotten more seasoning since 2022. I think this young group that we saw in that World Cup, battled to a draw against an English side that they had no business playing against. That group is a little bit older now. And so
they had business
Obviously,
being on that England field. They had 100% business being on that field.
You think they had business beating them?
Yeah, England, the way England's set up, they can be beat easily. They have all these stars, but they don't do anything with it. It's the history.
Yeah, that's
of England.
fair. Yeah.
And
Talent-wise, though,
if
they're on a different level.
group tied with the golden generation of English soccer, we have every reason being on the field with England in any given situation. We do.
That's fair. Well,
no,
for rivalry's
I think,
sake, too, I won't give them the benefit of the doubt.
No, I think you're right. I mean, Alexi Lalas has even said that we have gotten better since 2022. And I think we have to be better than in 2022 because we got embarrassed in the round of 16. And if we weren't better since 2022, we're doing something wrong. And I like the schedule that it's not like these teams aren't beatable. I think every single team is beatable because Belgium is not Belgium of 2014. Portugal is not Portugal from 2014. Obviously, they're better than us. Senegal is not the same Senegal from years past.
Yeah.
And then the other one, Germany. This isn't 2014 Germany, for crying out loud. This Germany team can be beaten on any given day. It's not the same old Germany. So
could you imagine this run before the World Cup if it was 2014 with these teams? It'd be like in all the top 5 or top. Well, I mean, I know Germany's in the top 10, but
it would be. Well, obviously we lost to Belgium in 2014. They were miles better than us. Portugal we did tie them in 2014. They weren't particularly good, but they still had some starts like Ronaldo in his prime, Nani, João Moutinho, Pepe.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else? I'm probably forgetting someone else that was actually pretty good. But no, I think that the scheduling in Guatemala doesn't do anything anymore. Scheduling Honduras anymore doesn't do anything. The only teams that I'm actually curious about playing in CONCACAF anymore is Mexico and Canada because I just want to beat Canada on every single thing from now on, from here to the end of time, just because I don't like Canada anymore. Maybe Panama, I guess. Maybe Panama because they can beat us every now and again. But to be honest with you, if we beat them, it don't really matter. If we lose to them, then we have more questions than answers because CONCACAF at this point, all right, we dominate the region and we'll keep it that way, but what can we do against the other sides? And I think this is great. I like the schedule. I don't know who scheduled it. I don't know if it was Pochettino. I don't know if it was the U.S. Soccer Federation itself. But no, I really like the fact that we are scheduling these really good teams because at the same time, if we really think about it, Pochettino has not been under a ton of pressure in terms of his managerial career with the U.S. men's national team, that is, because we didn't have to go through qualifying. We didn't have to go through that at all. The Gold Cup, I don't know. I don't really put a ton of stake into it at all. And ever since then, it's just friendlies. So, I mean, he's trying his best to create pressure situations, I guess, with scheduling these much harder teams. So I really like what Pochettino has done or what the U.S. Soccer Federation has done in scheduling these games because I think it's going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, putting them through it. Make sure that they're ready, 100%. We're going to talk more about that as we get closer to that game against Belgium, again, coming up on the 28th. So we're going to give you guys everything you need to know leading up to that, and obviously the rest of those international windows. We're getting closer, man. Summer's going to be here before we know it, so I'm excited to see what all that entails. But we'll take a step aside here. Coming up next on Inside the Game, getting into our all-sports content. I'm going to be doing plenty of talking about the NCAA tournament and a few other things going on around the remainder of the sports world. But first, let's tell you about Barcelona Barca Academy. It's a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network and the official academy of FC Barcelona in the United States. Designed for boys and girls ages 6 to 18, Barca Academy camps follow and replicate the FC Barcelona game model. Same philosophy used by Barca's professional coaching staff. And right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code FCB30, and that's FCB30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you at fcbarcelona.us/camps.
In Barca camp, I sing my song Grown on and off of the field. Don't miss the time to register.
Sign up now for Barca camp.
The National Soccer Network presents the MLIS and WMLIS Finals weekend. 8 teams battling for a championship at the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Don't miss the excitement March 28th and 29th as the top indoor soccer teams compete for the title. Watch every match live and exclusively on the National Soccer Network.
With that, we say welcome back in here inside the game. Nate Wangler and Ryan Glinsky. Let's get into our all sports content here today. We are squarely into March. It's March 23rd here as we barrel our way towards the end, getting ready for the Sweet 16, the NCAA March Madness tournament. Exciting on both ends here in the state of Michigan. We are based, obviously, in Michigan, Michigan State, both going to the Sweet 16. I saw that funny video of Michigan actually walking off the court after their game and Michigan State immediately starting their warm-ups.
Smile and wave.
Hey, man, it's rivalry stuff, man. That's how it goes. But there is a part of this tournament that we always talk about, Ryan, the different parts of what college athletics used to be and how it's kind of fading away. The majority of our conversations when we started this talk centered around college football rivalries, dead rivalries, how conferences are obviously no longer regional. It has everything to do with money and resources, and you have teams on the West Coast joining conferences that are primarily in the Midwest, and teams on the East Coast joining, and it is completely changed in so many ways, and obviously with NIL and transfer money being number one, and that has had they call it collateral damage. They always say that, like, when it comes to, like, wars, right? Collateral damage is the worst part about it because you're not killing someone who's fighting you on the other side. It's other people, families, communities that end up suffering and end up, suffering the worst damage oftentimes in these conflicts because they're collateral. They had nothing to do with what is going on. And the collateral from what we've seen from NIL and transfer portal has to do with some of these things that we found so romantic and so alluring about college athletics have kind of gone away. And one of those ones that I think we've only most recently started to notice, really last year and this year, is that Cinderellas, for the most part, Cinderellas are dead. And maybe not to the extent of you're not going to get an upset once in a while. Maybe not to the extent of you can't have one team that just gets hot and ends up winning a game. That happens. I know that High Point exists. I know that High Point beat Wisconsin. I saw the game, and obviously I picked Wisconsin to win that game, and I would argue a lot of people did. upsets are still going to happen, but it's more Cinderella light. But for the first time in tournament history, and I saw this yesterday, it's the first time in tournament history in the NCAA that a 12, 13, 14, or 15 seed has not won a single game in the tournament. Not a single one of them. I believe High Point was an 11 seed, so obviously they're the exception
12.
to the rule. You're 12. Oh, they were a 12 seed. Really? High Point's a 12? Okay,
Yeah,
so they're the
Wisconsin,
only
who's a 5.
they're the only 12 that's won over the last 2 years. That's fine. But the way that I look at this is, Ryan, is like when I think of the likes of Howard, right, for example, or any of those other teams, those mid-majors that end up making the tournament, you are now, with where NIL is and how much money that these Power 5 programs are spending and the types of players that they're getting who otherwise would have either gone to Europe or maybe gone to the G League or gone somewhere else where they can immediately make the money and then get into the NBA, or just go into the NBA as a high schooler. You don't have that anymore. A lot of these big time prospects are going to Power 5 programs because they realize how much money that they can make. And so when you look at rosters like Duke, and I know Florida lost yesterday, but again, Iowa is still a Power 5 program, so I wouldn't necessarily consider that a Cinderella. But
First
you
Sweet
look at
16
Duke.
since the 90s.
No,
So
that's
potentially.
true. That's true. But you look at Duke, you look at some of these other squads, you even look at Michigan. And I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, St. Louis is a good team, but how are you going to hang around against a glorified NBA team? How are you going to hang around with a team that is so good at playing above the rim that it really doesn't matter what you do? It's 2 passes and oop, and then Lendenborg is jumping through the ceiling, or Mara is making, people look silly. How do you even think about competing against sides that are filled with guys who are either going to be lottery picks or they're going to be role players in the National Basketball Association or doing really good in the G League the following year? The talent gap in college athletics continues to widen, and I think it's resulted in maybe not a watered down tournament, but I think we're starting to realize that true Cinderellas, again, to the truest form of what Cinderella means, not just winning one game, but winning multiple games and making a run like a Fairleigh Dickinson or like any of these other schools that have done so throughout the course of history. I just don't see it happening. Like I said, I like, even like a Butler, I don't think that would ever happen again. I don't think we're going to get another one of those. And so cool to see one-off games, cool to see Siena nearly beat Duke. But for the most part, I think you got a point, Ryan. I think Cinderellas are dead.
If I'm being honest with you, I would agree. I said it. Not a lot of people liked it. I said I was for Cinderella's being dead, and I still am, because, look, it's never happened. The lowest seed to ever win a national championship was an 8 seed. So it's not like these double-digit seeds are ever going to win a national championship. That's
right.
That's just not happening. But I am going to say this. I think after the round of 64, I think you see some really, really good basketball being played with the top teams playing each other. The round of 64 might not bring the same feel, the same craziness, the same madness as it normally does. But I'll tell you this, I think the games in the rounds after that, much better than it was before. Like the round of 32, Iowa, Florida, fantastic game. St. John's, Kansas, fantastic game. Nebraska, Vanderbilt, unbelievable game. Like, there were some really good games in the round of 32, and maybe some of the best ever in the round. And then everyone that was bitching and complaining about, oh, we have 4 1 seeds in. What are we going to do with the little teams? Why aren't they here? Well, you know what? Those were 3 of some of the best college basketball games watched. Florida, Houston last year, down to the wire. Duke chokes against Houston, down to the wire. Houston down to the wire against Florida in the national championship game. Sorry, but if we put a 12 or a 13 seed against these teams in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16, guess what? They're losing by 30. And guess what? I would much rather watch the best teams play each other in a tight game against, well, the 12 seed. They just had to get into the Sweet 16, and then they get blown out by 30 against the number 1 seed. But we need the little schools. All this. You are lying to yourself. In listener land, you are lying to yourself if you actually like Cinderellas, because I'll tell you something. The moment a 13 seed beats your favorite team as the 4 seed, you hate it all. You hate the Cinderellas. You only like Cinderellas if it happens to a rival or anyone else other than your team. And Cinderellas are cute until the Sweet 16. All of a sudden they get killed by the 1 seed. And I'll tell you this too. In the last, I think in this decade, we've had 2 15 seeds in the Elite Eight. So just because it's happened 2 times in the last 2 years, we've also had some of the most upset tournaments in recent years. And even in 2018, we had the most upset tournament ever. So just a couple times this has happened. And guess what? We're not going to see all 1 seeds again in this tournament because Florida's out. But the best look, when it comes to playoffs and it comes to championships, what do we want to see? We want to see the best of the best play for it because that's ultimately what we want. But March Madness is not necessarily designed around that. They wanted to put the best viewing product really out there because that's why it's all single elimination. You got so many rounds to go through. But if I'm being honest, I don't want to see a Howard versus a Florida in the Sweet 16. That's just stupid. There's just no point in that. And I would much rather see the better teams play each other. And if I'm looking at the 8-9 games, I mean, Utah State made it interesting with Arizona towards the end there. Then Arizona pulls away. But if I'm looking at the 8-9 games, those are more competitive than it's ever been. The 8-9 games have been very competitive. Obviously, Michigan made St. Louis look foolish, but St. Louis was a ranked team, and that's just what Michigan does. They just beat everyone by 20. They've beaten ranked teams they beat Gonzaga by 40 or whatever it was. So that's just the way it is. But to sit there and be like, oh, Cinderella's done, you're lying to yourself to say you actually like the Cinderellas. You like it once or twice, and the moment all the top teams are out, you don't like it, and the views go like this. Yeah. So you're lying to yourself if you actually like Cinderellas.
And I don't think that this is anything new. I think this is just kind of exposing something that has been a reality in the tournament for a while that is just becoming more exacerbated now, I think, because of the state that college athletics is in. You know, be like, okay, you know, you'll get a Cinderella that wins a couple of games, right? But to your point, Ryan, it gets a little watered down because then you're not seeing the best of the best. They can have a couple of good games, but then they're going to run into a buzzsaw, and it's going to be over quicker than what it began. But, you know, just breaking down some of these numbers from the history of the tournament, right? Number 1 seeds have won the vast majority of men's basketball championships, right? No shocker. There are 26 national titles for number 1 seeds. So when it comes to the championship, you know, you want to see the best of the best, and typically the best of the best emerges. You're not going to see a Cinderella win a title, but since the field expanded to 64 teams, the second most successful team in terms of winning championships, this one's going to shock you, the 2 seed has been the next most successful team when it comes to winning championships in the NCAA tournament. Isn't that wild? Isn't that great? So the best teams
would have won it to the second most.
Right. The best teams generally win the championship. And yeah, you've had Butler go there and you've had whatever, but that's not how this works. At the end of the day, the cream will rise to the top. And so when it comes to this tournament, it's always been the better teams dominating. It just so happens that there's been little variance in there that have made people go, ooh, look at, you know, Prairie View A&M Tech, you know, look at Panera Bread making a run to the Sweet 16. It's like, but it doesn't mean that, you know, it means everything to that small school, but the people want to see the best of the best at the end of the day. Like, you want to see the best of the best head on head in a championship scenario. And when you have a Final Four that just isn't exciting, or you have, you know, those teams go far, it's not that I don't think people enjoy seeing them win a couple of games, because I will tell you, I thoroughly enjoy watching them win a couple of games. It's cool. You know what I mean? It's like the little engine that could. I think there is something uniquely American about watching a team that has no business being in competition with the team that they're playing against, but somehow they're finding a way to compete against them, you know, like a Siena against Duke. I think people do really enjoy seeing that. However, I just think that, number one, obviously the number 1s and 2s have always dominated, you know, so the numbers show that, they bear that out. It's a simple, quick Google search. You can look that up yourself. But I just think the money and the transfer portal and everything else is just going to widen that gap. I feel like there are going to be less and less true Cinderellas that emerge in the years to come in the NCAA tournament. And I'm not the only one who said this. There have been multiple people who have come out and said, like, hey, this tournament just doesn't feel as maddening as previous previous ones do. And I would certainly have to agree. Now, will there always be a level of parity in college basketball that there isn't quite in any other sport? Yes, because when you have 500 teams across the country, everybody plays the game. So you're going to get some variance in there. And I think people enjoy that. And that part's never going to go away. But I think the true Cinderellas of the past, I just don't know. I know 2 years is a short sample size. You can't really draw a whole lot from just 2 years, but I just don't think it's going to be the same as maybe what we saw before, which is, and we'll talk about Michigan State and, how they claim to be doing it the right way. But the truth is that nobody does it the right way anymore. Everybody pays. Every mid-major that has
there's cheating in college sports.
Every level of success, your players are going to end up leaving. If you have any level of success, it's all different now. So I wouldn't go as far, Ryan, as to say that people don't like Cinderellas deep down. I think they do. Even watching Loyola win, I know that Michigan beat them. Thankfully, I would not have been happy if Loyola had won that game, but I still think people enjoy watching those teams win games and knock teams out of the tournament. I still think that there is a level of enjoyment there. However, I just think it's the way I can't get pissed because it's just the way that sports are going. It's just another, little variant in this world of ever-changing dynamics in the college space here in the United States.
I do want a little sidebar real quick before I get back to the main point. Dominic says, Detroit Waza Flow supports your efforts. Thank you, Dominic. We appreciate it. They're in the MASL, I believe. Yeah.
Very nice.
MASL 3. They compete in the same region as the Muskegon Risers and Cincinnati Swerve and all that. But where was it at? I do want to mention that, like, the whole I don't know who the High Point coach is, and also Travis Steele of Miami, Ohio, that they all complained about, no one scheduled us, this and that. Well, Matt Painter came out and said, well, we scheduled Oakland, we scheduled Kent State. I mean, these schedules are years in advance. So it's not like they aren't scheduling them. They just aren't scheduling you. I mean, look at Miami. You went to Michigan last year, who won the Big Ten tournament and went to the Sweet 16. Michigan scheduled you. Just because you didn't get scheduled for a year, and I bet you any money to that Travis Steele and whoever the High Point coach is, the moment a Power 4 school comes knocking on your door to become the next head coach, you're not staying, you're leaving, and you can schedule all the mid-major schools you want. So it's not like that's going away, because the moment you leave, that goes away. But no, I think with the whole Cinderella thing, I mean, it's college athletics. To see like, look, I've been in the Oakland athletic office, and that Kentucky game is still hanging, and that was like 2-3 years ago. That golf towel is still hanging. That poster is still hanging, even though it was years ago. I sat in the Central Michigan athletic office, and the last what was it? The last time the CMU women's team made the tournament, I think it was like 2020 or 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
Or 2019 maybe. I don't remember. But that poster is still hanging up in where we do our broadcast. It's still hanging up. Why? Because most of these schools don't even win games. It's not just a 2024 or not a 2025, 2026 issue. It's not this all NIL. If we go over the history of college athletics in the March Madness, the little schools don't typically win at all. So it's just becoming an issue because of this whole NIL thing. But again, at the same time, the games as this tournament goes on is getting better. So like, obviously the gap between the mid majors and the top teams are all going, like, they're widening. But I'll tell you this: the best teams, they're starting to get more of the top elite teams. So what does that mean? You're going to get better games in the biggest moments, and that's all you want in sports. I do not want to see a championship where there's a blowout. I don't want to see a Georgia versus TCU ever again. I don't ever want to see that in college football playoff. I don't want to see a Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl back when Seahawks won 40-48. I do not want to see that again. I want to see the best games in the biggest moments, and I think that's happening. Like let's look at the national championships for college football. Miami, Indiana, unbelievable game. That's probably Nate's favorite game of all time. Indiana winning the national championship. Michigan, Washington was a good game. Ohio State, Notre Dame was a good game. Like, those were good games. And even the 2 years before that, where Georgia, Alabama played, unbelievable game. That's what you want to see. You want to see the best games and the biggest moments. And everyone that's saying the Cinderellas, you're lying to yourself if you actually like them that much. If you care that much,
I think
if you care that much, create your own mid-major NIT for just the little guys. No one's actually going to watch it except the parents and maybe some of the students. And then, you know what? Tell these mid-major schools to put some 2-year contracts on these guys and get a buyout so you can get some of your money. Like a UAB, you had Yaxel. You're telling me you didn't try to get him on like a 2-year contract 2 years ago because you know this guy's going to make you a ton of money? If he was, I think he's reportedly making $3 million at Michigan. You could have gotten a couple million out of Michigan, but no, you just didn't put it in place. Not my
Cuban
fault.
LeBron James, the Cuban LeBron James, Dominican. Sorry, that's whoops, got it wrong. No, I think to the people who aren't as into the sport of basketball or they don't follow along with it. Clearly you and I, obviously we're talking about it all the time. We've been following obviously this Michigan team closely. And I did think Gonzaga was frauds too. Remember when Michigan beat them by 40 to begin the season?
I didn't put a ton of stock in that because I'm like, it's Gonzaga. And then even in my bracket, I think, because I don't even think I had Texas. I had BYU. So I had Gonzaga not even winning that game anyway. So, dude, it's Gonzaga.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time. They are frauds.
Exactly. Yep. So,
they're like Purdue in a way.
When I think about this, I do think the people that, again, the fringe fans on the outside looking in enjoy Cinderellas just for the storyline of it. Like I think about all the people that fill out brackets that take that day off or watch all those games. Like even my buddy, my friend AJ, like good guy, love him, but like he's not really invested in sports. Like he'll watch the Tigers because he played baseball, but outside of that,
it's a boring sport to watch.
It's just
you put me in the sport, I'm swinging at the first pitch.
Yeah, everything. Apparently, they're just lobbing them right down the middle to you. You don't even have to worry about anything. That's so funny, man. I can't believe you actually did really well, and then you just decided it's just not for you. I don't know. I feel like people, if they succeed at something, they want more of that thing. They're not just like, hey, all right, I'm done. I'm formally retiring.
I just didn't like the pace of the game. That's all.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I wasn't even supposed to play in it. It was just to fill in for my cousin's team because I happened to spend the night that weekend with them. And then they're like, my uncle, who's the coach, is like, "Hey, you kind of need to play. We need bodies." I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll play."
Hey, we kind of don't have enough players, so yeah, get your ass in there. So, no, I certainly think we want to see the best of the best play in those later rounds, and I think the NCAA tournament where it is perfect. I don't ever think there should ever be conversations about expanding. I saw a joking video yesterday about expanding to like 2,000 teams and like including like Division III and Division II teams, because why not? And it's like, no, I think 64 is still a good number. I don't think we have to create a separate tournament. I don't think anything's broken. I still think it's exciting. And like you were talking about with the Oakland thing, it still means something. Even if a 16 seed makes it and they get blown out, like I think about it was a team that played Florida in the first round.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Prairie View.
Prairie View A&M. Yep. Did you hear what their coach said after halftime coming back out as to what they needed to do?
Look at the Lord. Gotta ask the Lord.
Yeah, we gotta need some help from the Lord. That's so
it's
funny.
Like then when Kevin Willard's like, "I'm firing all my assistants." What? Really?
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, but it's funny because he doubled down on it, so people are like, "Is this guy serious?" Or no,
Kevin
he wasn't
Willard's
serious.
He's just an interesting fella.
He is. He's got a history for sure. But no, I think to those people, it's really exciting. Into the small schools, just getting the chance to go. So I don't think you have to change up the way that it's formatted or include any more teams or create a separate tournament.
You create more teams, it's going to be more worse games.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
like we
but
can't expand the field.
But we're all so expansionist. That's the problem.
I know,
like all of
but
college athletics is so expansionist.
If anyone in the NCAA looked at the recent round of 64 games, it ain't creating more. It's not creating more. It's not creating better games. It's not. We're going to get more blowouts. And I don't even know how many teams they could go up to. We're gonna have like 1 versus 20 seeds. Like that's just gonna it's just gonna mean mean Michigan, Florida, Houston. They blow them out by 40 instead of 20 every time. Like no. If anything, if we're going to expand the field, just put in more play-in games for like 11 seeds, 10 seeds, or like 9 and 8 seeds. Just do that. But do not expand it anymore. Like in terms of the whole field to actually get in. Like we don't need anything higher than a 16 seed. We don't need anything higher than that. Just stop, please.
Just stop.
If
just
anything,
cut it out.
Do not expand the field. We've seen it in college football. Expanding the field does not create better games. It just creates more blowouts and a more unnecessary game for some of the bigger teams to play in. That's all it does.
Or even the World Cup maybe this summer. We'll see how that turns out. But we'll see. We'll see how Haiti fares in the World Cup or any of these
Howard
other
actually
places.
said he's like, there's no point in me turning on the Curacao Germany game. It's going to be 5-0. Sure, Curacao will keep it tight for like 20 minutes, and then it'll just be blowout after that.
Yeah, so whatever. But, hey, and more money, that's what they want. But coming up next, we'll talk a little Michigan State basketball. First, let's tell you about Man City Soccer Camps, proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, bringing world-class training inspired by Man City's global football philosophy to players across the United States. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels, these camps focus on technical development, decision-making, and playing the game the City way. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code MCNSN30, and that's MCNSN30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you, usacamps.mancity.com. Back in live and inside the game here, getting into our final segment before question of the day in episode 255. It is a good year in basketball in the state of Michigan. Well, for the most part. Obviously, we heard about the Cade news. Hopefully that doesn't derail the professional side and the Pistons. But just talking about college hoops here, obviously both Michigan and Michigan State marching on to the Sweet 16. Michigan taking on Bama in the Sweet 16. That one coming up on Friday, 7:35 start time for that one. And, of course, on the other side, Michigan State taking on the 2 seed in UConn. Dan Hurley v. Tom Izzo. That is going to be a fun matchup. That one also on Friday. That's the late game, 9:45, the start for that one against UConn and Michigan State. But I wanted to talk about this today because I think it's something that, as Michigan fans, obviously you and I, Ryan, we are privy to this because we are faced with it all the time. We understand it because we know it intrinsically. We are raised around these people. We live and coexist around these people. And when it comes to this side of the conversation, they just so happen to become the most annoying bunch that the planet has ever seen. And it's this. So I was listening yesterday to Tom Izzo in his post-game interviews, which have just become utterly obnoxious, because it all centers around this level of moral superiority, and we do it different. No one coaches the right way anymore. And Tom Izzo is the last remaining real coach on the planet. And we, developed, not bought. So I saw some tweets the other day praising Tom Izzo, and then I saw some people jumping in the comment section who are Michigan State fans talking about how, well, we do it the right way. We do it differently than everybody else does. We have Izzo, and Izzo prioritizes getting his guys and development, and putting them in the best positions, and not just utilizing the transfer portal. And so I was reading through some of these comments, right, because he's given his post-game presser, and the quote says, and it's Great Lakes Great Sports says, Tom Izzo will go down as one of the last, if not the last, genuine program builder in Division I basketball. Interesting. Guys stay, develop, and they get rewarded. Complete opposite of what college athletics has become everywhere else. And so I'm reading through some of these comments, and one of them says, from Mackenzie, and I won't read her last name, but Mackenzie goes, I've been saying this for years. We are so lucky to have him holding the line at MSU. Seems like the rest of college sports scene is solely in pursuit of getting stupid brand deals for the players and utilizing transfer portal whenever the wind blows. Programs that function to exploit those two things will never admit it, but they are actively contributing to the demise of what college athletics should be. Well, Mackenzie, since I know that you're not the only one who believes this about Jesus Christ himself and Tom Izzo, and the rest of your Michigan State fans, let's talk about this a little bit, okay? I'm not gonna, and I don't want to, poo-poo what Tom Izzo has done in his career, or where he's been, or how many games he's won, or the players he has produced. He has produced a lot of great players. He's won a lot of games. He's been to a ton of Final Fours. I would consider him one of the greatest coaches in the history of this game. But let's take a step back for a quick second, shall we? Let's address some of the things that you and all your Sparty friends are saying about Tom Izzo and just how pure and holy and this moral soapbox that you want to stand on, especially when you lose to Michigan, because it just seems like that's the time where it comes up the most, little woe is me, because that's who Michigan State is. The victim mentality, the inferiority complex is nauseating in East Lansing. But let's talk about this a little bit, all right? Let's get into some of these numbers. First of all, Michigan State spent $21 million in NIL for their basketball program. Ryan, that's just outside of the top 5 in the country. That's number 7 in terms of spending in college basketball. Yeah, I thought so too. But apparently developing is also making sure that you have millions of dollars in your pocket. What's odd to me is everybody else is doing that. So you're no different in that regard.
So you mean the dumbest basketball player of all time, Cohen Carr, who was supposedly getting $2 million plus from like SEC schools who stayed, isn't actually playing for free? He's actually getting paid?
Yeah, maybe he just stayed because Tom Izzo is such a great coach.
Oh, yeah, you mean the culture? Okay.
Maybe that's
they had
yes,
the culture,
of course,
brotherhood at MSU.
Of course,
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, why would? Yeah, so $21 million. Okay, so automatically your claim of doing this the right way or what it should be or not exploiting, you're wrong. Yeah, I shouldn't be shocked because I feel like in this generation, people are systematically unable to actually Google anything unless someone puts it right in front of their face. Don't see, don't know, don't
Like
care.
Kirksey Nettie?
That's the Michigan State way. If we don't see it in front of us, it doesn't exist. It does exist. You do spend $21 million on your roster. And so to believe that you're somehow holy is wrong. Let's look at the other side of this conversation, which I think it's funny, utilizing the transfer portal whenever the wind blows. That's a funny line, Mackenzie. I do really appreciate that line, only because I feel like it's whimsical. And for some reason, you just had to pull that one out in order to make your point seem more elaborate. But it's not. You have 3 main transfers on your team. Now, hold on. I realize their best of which got hurt, and I realize that probably hurt this Michigan State team. But let's not pretend like they haven't utilized the transfer portal. They got some transfers. Also, Tom Izzo has talked about before about how they need to get more involved in the transfer portal, how they need to be more like that. So you've utilized the transfer portal. You've spent $21 million on your roster, which is top 10 in college basketball. And yes, you've done so to convince players to stick around and to make sure that you're built in the right way to where you can go out and win games. You, like everybody else in the college atmosphere, is utilizing the current availability to pay players to keep them around in your program to go out and win games. If Tom Izzo was not doing any of those things, if he was what college should be, according to the Peanut Gallery, he would have won 10 damn games this year. And he probably, that tournament would probably have been out of the picture. The streak probably would have been over. And so this is the part about me, and I just wanted to, and this is nothing against the Michigan State fans that I know that I consider good friends or counterparts or people that I've worked with. This is more just talking about the fan base. It's not talking about the university itself. It's talking about the fan base. This inferiority complex that you guys have, you got to get it figured out. You got to stop being a fan base and a group and a culture that always finds the first way in which you can be the victim, because frankly, it is nauseating to deal with in the sports scene. And anybody who's outside of the University of Michigan or cheering for the University of Michigan, when they're finally exposed to this, they're like, wow, yeah, MSU fans are just, they whine about everything. It's wild to think that I actually respect Ohio State fans a little bit more, because at the very least, I would rather them be arrogant and actually be good at some of the things that they do than whine and complain and take the victim mentality and the victim route every single time. You pointing the finger at Michigan, claiming that we're a certain way, is no different than the coffee calling the kettle black. You're just not willing to look inside. You're not willing to look inward. And so it's nauseating, Ryan. It's absolutely nauseating. Nothing about you in your basketball program is that terribly unique to where you do it differently than everybody else does. Okay, you are not above and beyond anybody in this sport. And the only way, if you're going to keep clamoring this thing, if he's the last true program builder and he's the last true one to ever do it the right way, well, I'm not sure how the right way is one national championship in 26 years. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. And maybe that's a little short-sighted. I don't know. But you tell me how that's the right way. Yeah, you talk about chasing ghosts. You know who else is chasing ghosts? Tom Izzo.
I'd agree.
Tom Izzo is chasing ghosts.
Yeah, he's trying to chase the
It's
ghost
called a
of,
national championship.
He's trying to chase the ghosts of what's his name? Coach K, Roy Williams, trying to chase those ghosts because they actually are pretty good and actually win stuff. So all I'll say this about Michigan State is, and I think you've kind of said everything that I would have said. The issue with Michigan State fans is this. The world is against them, yet they just had, I believe, $500 million donated to their athletic department, which is weird because they don't use NIL money, which, again, weird. And then what's also weird is, well, Izzo doesn't get these – 5-star recruits like, Coach K and all those guys, which baffles my mind because I think of guys like Jaren Jackson, Miles Bridges, Max Christie, Xavier Booker. I mean, that's crazy that he was a 5-star. And I think of guys like Josh Langford, these guys are all high recruits, but he doesn't develop any of them, which is weird. And the only reason Michigan State fans are upset with this whole NIL thing is because of how fast Dusty May turned Michigan into a national championship contender. I don't know what anyone wanted Dusty May to do with an 8-24 roster. Does he just keep the roster because they went 8-24? I mean, he kept two players. I guess Jace Howard is a third, but two players that actually played in Amari Burnett and Will Cheddar. He kept those guys. But is he supposed to just roll with the 8-24 roster for another year? No coach in their right mind would keep that roster. They would have gotten rid of every single player if they could have. That's what would have happened. But Dusty May was like, okay, well, let me get some bigs. Let me get some guys from FAU. He didn't even bring the best guys from FAU. Elijah Martin and John L. Davis went elsewhere, and Nick Boyd went elsewhere. He only kept Vlad. But then he brings in, none of these transfers that he brings in are highly rated transfers. Yaxel's the only one that's ever been a highly rated transfer. Danny Wolf was kind of a sought-after guy just because of his size, but he came from Yale. But he didn't win a tournament game. But Yaxel's the only highly rated recruited transfer portal guy. Cadeau was kicked out of North Carolina, not saying he was by the university. He was kicked out by the fan base. The fan base hated Elliot Cadeau, and Elliot Cadeau was like, yeah, I'll see ya. Turns out to be a pretty good player. Morez Johnson broke his wrist half the year, so he was out half the year for Illinois. He was a backup big. And Adai Mara wasn't used at all. He averaged 7 minutes a game at UCLA. So it's not like these guys are highly rated guys. And Dusty May said himself that he's like, okay, this could go really bad or really good for us if we're going to use these three bigs in the starting lineup. He said that himself. He's like, we took a gamble. But everyone else in the rotation, LJ Kaysen, Roddy Gale, Cheddar, and then Trey McKinney. Trey's a freshman, and everyone else was on the team last year, so it's not like they just loaded up with 10 different transfers. And also, I thought you were going to mention it, but you didn't with the transfer portal. Did you know that Michigan and Michigan State brought in the same amount of transfers this past season? 4 and 4.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like we're doing rocket science here. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I think his name was something Glenn for Michigan State. Yeah, he got hurt. He was like their highly rated transfer portal guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, Michigan didn't recruit like the Cooper Flags of the world. They weren't recruiting the Cam Boozers of the world. They recruited one highly ranked guy from the transfer portal, one highly ranked McDonald's All-American in Trey McKinney, and then they brought in 3 rejects essentially and turned them into a national championship contender. Not my fault, is what I would say if I'm Michigan or Dusty May. It's not my fault that, Tom Izzo isn't adapting to the rest of the college basketball. Look, it's adapt or die. You can develop all you want. Tom Izzo's a great developer of talent. Not as much as John Beilein, I'll tell you that, because John Beilein did way more with way less. Again, Michigan State fans don't like that either. But this whole notion of like, everyone's against us, this and that, we don't have the NIL money, we don't use the transfer portal, we don't get 5-star recruits like Duke and all of them. Well, you get 5-star recruits, you just don't develop them properly, and then they leave. And you use NIL because I believe you guys made a whole press conference around getting $500 million at the Breslin Center to say, oh, we just got donated $500 million. You use the transfer portal, maybe, just maybe, your style of offense and your style of players that you're looking for doesn't win you national championships. Not saying Dusty May is going to win a national championship this year. I think they got a really good shot, but maybe Michigan's just adapting to the times and the way college basketball is changing, where you get bigs and dominate the glass and dominate the free throw line. Just saying, just out of curiosity,
Or maybe the college basketball world just caught up to him. Maybe the rest of the Big Ten. Yeah, maybe the rest of the Big Ten caught up to you. Maybe the rest of the college basketball scene caught up to you. I just that for your first. The first thing that we're going to do every single time Michigan State wins a game in the tournament is they're going to talk about how Tom Izzo is the standard and no one does it like Tom Izzo and he's the last of a dying breed. It gets old. It gets real old to listen to.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna do this whole, it's funny because Michigan State fans do hold that. It's like the world, us versus the world, but it's like the world doesn't care about Michigan State. Like the world is not awfully invested in what Michigan State has going on. You know, like they trust me, the world is not against you guys. It's you guys against you guys. It's your own ego against you guys. Like it's this belief again that if you're gonna call March Izzo month, he has.
But you don't
want to
be Mr. March. You want to be Mr. April. Just saying.
Yes,
because the national championship is played in April.
That's a fair assessment. That's fair.
I got that one from Coach K. Coach K was on McAfee's show, and they were talking about Izzo or something, and Coach K was like, well, I told Tom, I was like, you don't want to be called Mr. March. You want to be called Mr. April because that means you won the national championship or at least played in the national championship. It's been since 2009 since he's even been to the national championship.
Yeah. So it is just it's this woe is me mentality. It is all these things, and it's like I try my best to be objective when we talk about Michigan State as much as possible, because I know you and I are on the same page when it comes to that. So this is the most one-sided podcast ever. I mean, if we had anybody else in here, we'd probably have a little bit more of a back and forth on some of these things. But it is exactly that. And to think that Dusty May is not a great basketball coach, because he spent money and they utilized the transfer portal. Maybe he's just young and smart and energetic and new and fresh and unique. And you guys freaking hate that because you've gotten used to this standard where it's just good old Tommy boy who's just having his way in the Big Ten. And, you know, or Beeline wasn't like, and that's the thing that I think doesn't sit well with that fan base is Beeline and Dusty May are two opposite sides of the spectrum. Beeline was like Tom Izzo. Like he was the older, like, you know, fundamentals and develop and blah, 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 the Michigan way, you know, and then we get Dusty May in there and he's like, no, like I'm going to utilize the transfer portal. I'm going to spend my money. I'm going to have swagger. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to be a player's coach. I'm not going to talk about how these days are different. Well, no, you don't hear Dusty May bitching about that stuff. And so it makes it so much easier to think that his players want to play for him and that they respond better to him because he's not an old man yelling at the clouds 24/7.
Pivot. Let's do some jump stops and pivoting. Let's do that.
Like
bounce passes.
It just crazy, man. Like you talk about Tarek Skubal being a drama queen and bringing drama everywhere he goes. I feel like Izzo in this Michigan State program loves drama. They claim they don't like drama. Well, we do it the real way. No, you like drama. You want headlines. You want everybody to look at you and go, oh, look at these guys. They're doing it the right way. You're doing it like everybody else is doing it. So it gets lame after a while.
I want to say this real quick with the recruiting rankings I mentioned. Miles Bridges back in 2016, Josh Langford, 2 5-stars, Cassius Winston, top 30 player, Nick Ward, top 50, and then Jaren Jackson the year after was a 5-star. Do you want to know how many, when they all were together, do you want to know how many tournament games they won in the NCAA tournament?
3.
1 game, because they lost to Syracuse at home at LCA. Just saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about how John Calipari was a disappointment with what he did. I guess that was a little bit different because he got lottery picks all the time. So
because Calipari... Yeah. And I said this about Point Guard University, which Jeremy fears. I don't know what you're looking under. To be called a position university, you've got to produce pros. And last time I checked, your best point guards were Scott Skiles and Magic Johnson. I don't think those guys have played the last 20 years. But
yeah,
I mean, what's Tyson Walker doing in the league? I don't recall him. What's Cassius doing? Keith Appling, I'm pretty sure, is in jail. But Mateen Cleaves, I don't think he had a great NBA career. I'll tell you about Kentucky with Calipari. De'Aaron Fox. I don't know, maybe the MVP of the league, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't even like Coach Cal. That's the thing. You guys are making me defend Coach Cal. That's how bad you guys sound. Devin Booker's not really a point guard.
Yeah.
I just had all the Jamal Murray, another one, plays for the Nuggets. I had a whole list of them, but I'm blanking on a good chunk of them. But no, Kentucky has the only bad Kentucky point guard in the league was Brandon Knight. The Pistons drafted him, so that was the only bad one. For the majority, and I will say with Coach Cal, it was a little bit different to me because his whole philosophy was just, let's get these guys in, get them to the NBA, get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. I don't necessarily know if Coach Cal was super pressed about winning a national championship, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, he's won one, obviously, but yeah, no. John Wall and Eric Bledsoe, those were the other two I was forgetting about. Those were the other 2 point guards I forgot about, those two. But no, they were unbelievable.
Yeah. But let's
question of the day.
What's that?
Question of the day,
okay. All right.
presented by Assault Athletic, an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off. Visit saltathletic.com today or scan that QR code on your screen. But we talked a lot about Cinderellas, but we're a soccer network. There might be a big Cinderella this year. So would the U.S. men's national team be a Cinderella if they made a semifinal at the World Cup?
Ooh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's a situation where the slipper has to fit just right. Like we have to just stumble upon something and realize, oh man, this might be the team of destiny. No question about it. Now, are we expecting this team to do far better than what they did in 22? Yes. The expectations have been raised, and I think that's completely fair to have. I mean, despite the fact that obviously we're American fans and we're used to disappointment and all those other things, I think it's fair to expect them to do better. But you and I talked about it, and I think you had even mentioned that the quarterfinal is like your peak, or the round of 16 might be the furthest that you
ceiling.
And which I think is a fair assessment. So yes, absolutely, we can get to the semifinal, because I think in order for something like that to happen, we need a good break or a couple of good breaks. Like, good fortune has to befall us. I don't. From a pure talent perspective, I don't think we have the capability of getting there. But, part of, the Cinderella thing was it was unsuspected. Like, no one knew she was Cinderella until she put the slipper on. It's like, wow, look, it fits perfectly. So it's going to resemble something like that. We're going to have to need some breaks and some other weird things to happen in the course of this tournament to find ourselves in that position. So yeah, they would be a Cinderella. The only difference is, normally when you talk about Cinderellas, people are like, wow, we want to see this team continue to win. Like, this is crazy. The rest of the world, if the U.S. were to be a Cinderella in the World Cup, would be like, this is the worst thing ever. They need to lose now. We don't want to. We don't want to see this. No more upsets. No
World
more.
War III
I know they beat. Yeah, I know they beat that country that they had no business even being on the pitch against, but this cannot happen. This is not fun and exciting. It would only be fun and exciting for one group of people in the world, and that's actual U.S. fans here from the United States or wherever. So, yes, absolutely, they'd be Cinderellas.
I would think to be considered a Cinderella, I got to know who they beat, and I got to see how they did it. If they do it via PK shootout, it's just boring. They get a couple breaks, maybe. But if they go out there, again, I still think round of 32, if they win, again, I'm going solely if they win the group. They win the round of 32, they're not playing anyone that they're playing someone they're inferior of, most likely.
Yeah.
Round of 16, someone they're on level with. Quarterfinal, then they're beating someone that they are not better than, most likely. Again, a lot of things have got to happen. I don't know if they would be considered a Cinderella. I got to see who they beat, and I got to see how it is. If they were to get into the semifinal the way that on paper I think best fits them, no, I wouldn't say they're a Cinderella. Now, if they go out and beat like a France or an Argentina, like both of them, then yeah, we could say Cinderella for sure. But if they go out there, again, I don't know how they all match up. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know the path that they win the group. You play a third place team, that should be a win if they're playing someone inferior. Round of 16, you're playing someone like a Colombia or something that they're not world beaters. And then you get into the quarterfinals, you might be playing like an Argentina. But if you beat them, if you beat just Argentina, I can't say it's a Cinderella because you're better than two of the teams you played in the knockouts, or if not on level with. So no, I wouldn't say they're a Cinderella, but now if they go out and beat some really good teams and they get a little lucky in it, sure, I'll say a Cinderella. But if they beat it the way that they, on paper, their best path, no, I can't say they're a Cinderella.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's a good thing, right? Like, if we can get out of the group and get to the quarterfinal or the round of 16 and not have it considered a Cinderella story, then I think we're off to a pretty good start, which good. I think
I guess we've only been to
What's
the
that?
semifinals one time in our history, so I guess maybe that plays a factor. But again, it all depends who you beat and how you beat them. Because Spain never won a World Cup in 2010, but they were considered one of the better teams, and it's not like they beat these
Yep.
world beaters or anything. They played Uruguay for crying out
Mhm.
loud in the semifinals. They had Forlan and Suarez. That's about it. Or Suarez wasn't even playing in that one because he got a red card. So it's not like Suarez was
Yeah.
actually playing in it. So Spain wasn't considered a Cinderella at that point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I mean, it just takes a little lucky streak. I just think what's hard is that the reason why basketball you see so many upsets is because like there's the 3-point ball is the ultimate cheat code in that game. Like, and all you really need to do is just get hot one night, and all of a sudden it everything just starts going your way. I don't really think there's that cheat code in the game of soccer/football. Like, you have so much field, you have so many guys out there. You got 11 on either side. Like everybody has to play their position just the right way and execute in their spots just the right way. Like I would say that like soccer right up with like football are like the two ultimate team sports. Right? Because like everybody, every piece, every component has to be moving exactly the way it needs to in order to go out and win that game. In basketball, you can have one guy get hot, and all of a sudden, you know, you're winning games or beating teams you shouldn't be beating. Soccer's a different beast, and so that's why it's just so unlikely that something like that's going to happen. That you see a Curacao even compete against like a Germany, but
Now that'd
no,
be a Cinderella.
yeah, that would be a Cinderella. But I don't see it happening. But again, that's the hope. So that's yeah, they certainly would be. But that wraps up this episode here on 255. Listen, I say this every single week. Give us a follow on social media at National Soccer Network, also Sports Nation TV. That is sports with a Z. We're going to be posting all these clips here.
Yeah,
Again,
we
much
gained
like
over
our friend
100 followers in the last like 5 days on 3 days in Sports Nation. So shout out to all you people following. Couple
good stuff.
couple good videos, and I couldn't do math in one video, and you guys let me know. So appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all. But yeah, continue to get involved with that. Also, like we said, get involved in the conversation during our live shows. We will take your live comments. We will talk about your live comments here on the show, and we love getting them in. Shrocky, as always, thanks for stopping by. I know he's a busy man, so trying to drop as many comments as possible. But until we talk to you guys tomorrow for 256, hopefully your brackets are doing okay, and we're going to continue talking about everything else going on in and around the soccer world as well. But that's all coming up on 256 right here on Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wenger bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.